Hello everybody. Welcome to my channel. Today, I will explain the recently released horror comedy film named Werewolves Within. A VR game also came in the year 2018 with the same name, where people put on a headset, read the script of Beaverfield's character, lie to each other. One among them is a werewolf. The rest have to identify that person. At the beginning of the movie, we see a man named Dave who was standing outside his lodge. Then there is some movement in the bushes and some things attack him. 29 days later, we see a forest officer named Finn Wheeler, who comes to Beaverfield to take charge. This was his punishment posting. Finn arrives and stays at the only lodge in town, now owned by Jean. There he met the town's new mail person, Cecily. Before Cecily, Dave was the mailman. Cecily was also living in the same lodge for a month. This town was very small, where only a few people lived. An oil pipeline project was going through this town, which was supported by many people in the town. Many people were opposing it. A man named Sam Parker had come here to persuade those who were opposing it. He also stayed in the same lodge. An environmentalist, Dr. Jane Ellis, also stayed at the lodge, who had come to study the environmental impact of the pipeline project. Next day, Cecily takes Finn on a town tour, where she also talks about the fake rumor of Jean's husband. The people of the town thought that he had run away with some lady. First, we see Devin and Jacqueline, who were a lovely gay couple. Later, Marcus and Gwen. Then we see a couple named Trisha and Peter. Trisha had a dog Chachi, which she loved more than Peter. Peter flirts with Cecily here as he was a pervert. Sam built a fire totem in the middle of town as a midway symbol of his project. Later we see Finn going to a cottage outside the town. There lived a hunter named Flint, who used to hunt illegally. He didn't care about the rules of the forest office or the people of this town. He threatens Finn. Later that night we see Cecily and Finn spending some quality night at a local bar. The same night, some unknown thing attacked Trisha's dog. Her dog was dead. Next day she goes to the lodge and starts a ruckus in front of everyone. All the people of the town had come there as the power of the town had gone out. The highway was also closed due to snowfall last night. The mechanics from the power company were no longer available. Finn goes to check the backup generators where he finds someone's claw marks. Someone destroyed the backup generators. Finn here found a dead body there which later turned out to be of Dave. Jean starts crying after seeing her husband's dead body, as she had faith in him from day one. She knew he was loyal. Dr. Ellis checks Dave's body. She finds some animal hairs there. Everyone thinks it's an animal attack. On hearing the name of the man-eating animal, Finn suggests the idea of taking help from Flint as he was an expert hunter, which does not go down well with the townspeople. Flint was never social, he lived isolated. The townspeople were always skeptical about him. They thought him as a psycho. Anyway, Finn and Cecily still go to Flint's house. Flint flatly refuses to help, saying that he does not care. He is happy at ease here. Flynn tries to give him a long lecture on neighborhood duty, community duty, etc., citing Mr. Rogers' neighborhood TV show as an example, but nothing works. Flint laughs it off. While these two were talking, Cecily found Trisha's dog Chachi's collar. It was lying there in plain sight. Naturally, this spooks Cecily and Finn. They run from Flint's house like Usain Bolt. At the lodge, Dr. Ellis shares her preliminary DNA results with Jean. She tested both the hair samples collected from the dog's body and Dave's body. Both were a match. She says DNA is similar to a dog or a wolf, but not a perfect match. This is definitely an animal attack. Something has eaten them alive. Since there was no power in town and a man-eating animal was roaming, everyone made the decision to stay in this lodge for the night. Finn makes sure that there is at least one gun in each room. Most already had their gun with them. At late night, something attacks Trisha's husband Peter. It drags him from his bed and eats his hand alive. Peter shouts in pain. We see Gwen firing in the dark at something, where one bullet hits Peter too. When all searched the place with their torchlight, there was no one other than Peter. The attacker simply vanished in thin air. Peter's hand was also covered in similar hairs which we saw on Dave's body. Dr. Ellis checks these hairs as well. Sam gives her a bottle of drink as she was in a visible panic mode. Dr. Ellis was against Sam's pipeline project. The town people were frightened, they were not sure how the attack could happen under the lodge. Finn calms everyone down and tells them to wait for the final result from Dr. Ellis. Dr. Ellis was analyzing this new sample by locking herself at her room. The results were again similar and inconclusive. The werewolf's legend was famous in this town for centuries. This was an urban legend in which humans turn into a werewolf on a full moon, and yesterday was the full moon. This lodge image gallery was filled with werewolves paintings. Dr. Ellis now seems to believe in this legend of the werewolf as she takes her gun out. In panic, she starts drinking heavily. When Finn and others come to meet her, she shoots at them. Tells them it is a werewolf, any one of you can be a werewolf. She was so wasted and horrified that she was not making rational decisions. Sam takes an alternative key from Jean and enters Dr. Ellis's room from behind. Apparently, it had an emergency back door as this was a VIP suite. Then we hear 3 gunshots. On Sam's arrival, Dr. Ellis commits suicide. Sam opens the room door as everyone was in clear shock. Now everyone was convinced that one among them was a werewolf. They put a lamp at the center and start accusing each other of being a werewolf. Gwen puts forward a different urban legend theory of her own here, saying it could also be the work of Indigo, an ever-hungry beast which roams around the woods in search of human flesh. Joaquin was from Argentina. He says that in his country it is believed that the 7th born child will become a werewolf. Hence people used to kill their 7th child. Cecily thinks this is completely nonsense as she was the 7th child. That's when Trisha angrily shouts at everyone. She says all this story of werewolf is rubbish. One of you is a bully and murdered, one of you killed my dog, one of you ate my husband's hand. One of you is doing this so that Sam will stop his pipeline project. Here Jean counters her. She accuses Sam of killing Dr. Ellis. Dr. Ellis was against his pipeline project. Nobody knew whether Dr. Ellis really committed suicide or whether just Sam killed her. Since the room was locked. Sam here rubbishes these allegations. Like this, everyone accuses everyone of being a werewolf. All point guns at each other. Frustrated Finn shouts at everyone and calms them down. He gives a big lecture on community again, which nobody gives a damn. Everyone starts to leave this lodge. Only Finn, Cecily and Jean were left in the lodge. Sam pulls out his hunting gear for self-defense. Trisha and Peter were now at their home. Cecily also had some doubts about Sam, so she asked Finn to search his room. Finn and Cecily search Sam's room, where Cecily finds a newspaper clipping in which the killings of Grout Pond and Townsend were mentioned. Apparently, Finn was earlier posted in the same city where these killings took place. Finn also finds a knife from Sam's drawer. It was covered in a cloth from which the diesel smell was coming. Diesel was used to run generators. Jacqueline and Devon were on their way home when they heard some noise in the dark. Both run in panic and get separated. Later we see Trisha in front of Devon, whom she kills. Devon was opposing the pipeline project. Trisha would have made a killing if it went through. Sam was wearing his hunting gear and was searching for Finn. Sam thought Finn was a werewolf as killing were shadowing him. Next, we see Jacqueline meeting Finn and Cecily, who were hiding under the stairs of the lodge. Jacqueline says he and Devon got separated near Trisha's house. He asks for Finn's help. These 3 now arrived at Trisha's house, where Marcus was already there. He was stealing kitchen knives to use them as gloves. Marcus attacks Finn as he was not sure who was a werewolf. Later, he starts running away from him as his wife Gwen then hits him and kills him. He dies there. At that precise moment, Trisha arrives and kills Gwen, meaning everyone had gone crazy in fear. Trisha takes Finn, Cecily and Jacqueline under the house at gunpoint. Basically, Trisha was mad at her dog's death. She was taking revenge by killing all those who were against the pipeline project. She informs Jacqueline about Devon's death. Due to this, Jacqueline angrily kills Trisha with the iron rod, causing her head to fall into the fireplace. Later these 3 ran from Trisha's house, where Sam was standing near the street corner. Here Jacqueline grabs Cecily's neck and points a gun at her. He says she is the real werewolf as she is the 7th born child, meaning everyone was losing their mind. Finn tries to negotiate with Jacqueline, but he was in no mood to listen. Meanwhile, Sam shoots an arrow at Finn from behind, which brunches his arm and enters straight into Jacqueline's body. Jacqueline falls down. Further, Sam grabs Cecily by the neck and starts blackmailing her. He says that Finn is the real werewolf as wherever he was posted, there were killings happening. Sam also searched Finn's room and found a diesel-clothed knife. To which Finn says this is a lie as he got the knife from Sam's room. These 2 start bickering at each other. Taking advantage of this, Cecily attacks Sam, hits him at his knees and runs away. Finn too attacks Sam. He starts beating him. These two were fighting near Sam's fire totem. While dying, Jackson once again expresses his anger towards Sam. He fires at the fire totem, which causes a huge explosion. Sam was killed in the blast. Next, Cecily takes Finn to the town's only bar to treat him. Just then, Finn saw Cecily's mail room where several undelivered mail boxes were lined up. He checks it. There was an ID of Dave and other documents. Finn finds that Cecily was actually a werewolf. Upon knowing that Finn now knows her secret, Cecily laughs at him innocently. She says the people of this town were morons. They were fighting among themselves. It was I who placed the dog's collar at Flint's house. It was I who kept the knife in Sam's room. I killed Dave as I wanted his uniform of a mailman. There can be only one mailman in this town. Nobody doubts a mailman. I tried hunting in other cities, but the workload there was hectic. I ate Peter's hand as he was a pervert. Cecily now transforms herself into a werewolf. She tries to attack Finn, but the hunter Flint attacks her from behind. Finally, a fight breaks down between these three. Later we see Jean, who fires an arrow at Cecily and kills it. And this film ends here. So friends, this was the story of the Werewolf Within film. It is a horror comedy film inspired by the VR game of the same name. I really enjoyed this film. I hope you do too. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe and like. Thanks for watching. Take care.